Welcome, dearly beloved anointed ones. Genius is not what you learn, it's what you survive. Now let that sink in for a second, because if you're here, it's not by accident. You didn't just stumble across this video, you were drawn here almost like your spirit knew there was something hidden in plain sight waiting for you. And let's be honest, people around you have always sensed it too. They can't put their finger on it, but they know something about you bends the rules of ordinary intelligence. Here's a fact for you. Researchers at Harvard discovered that the brain of an exceptionally gifted individual processes information differently. It doesn't just store knowledge, it rewires reality at a faster rate than most people can keep up with. Now think about that. That's why people can't keep up with you. It's not that you're trying to be difficult. It's that your very brain, your very soul is built on another frequency. And that's where the suspense begins. Because people aren't just impressed by your intelligence. They're unsettled by it. You don't just answer questions, you ask the kind of questions that shake the floorboards of everything people thought they understood. You don't just walk into a room, you tilt the atmosphere so much that even the self-proclaimed smartest person in the room starts checking their notes twice. And here's the funny part. You probably weren't even trying. You could just be explaining why you don't like pineapple on pizza, and suddenly someone's having an existential crisis about their life choices. That's how disruptive your gifts are. You don't turn heads, you turn entire belief systems upside down. So tonight, we're diving into the truth of why your intelligence and gifts leave people shook, speechless, and sometimes even jealous. Not because you brag, not because you force it, but because your very existence exposes what others spend their whole lives pretending to have. Stay with me, because by the end of this, you'll understand why you're not just smart. You're one of a kind, and that's exactly what they can't handle. Number one, you're proof that survival can refine intelligence instead of breaking it. You're proof that survival doesn't just shape people, it sharpens them. Most people go through hardship and come out broken, bitter, or permanently slowed down. But your story is different. Instead of destroying you, the fire you walked through became the very furnace that refined your intelligence. That's what people can't wrap their heads around. They expect scars, but what they see is strategy. They expect silence, but what they hear is clarity. They expect weakness, but what you give them is wisdom that feels far older than your years. Your intelligence isn't a product of comfort, it's a product of endurance. Every betrayal, every loss, every rejection trained your mind to operate on a higher frequency. While others were learning trivia from classrooms, you were learning survival codes from life itself. That's why when you speak, people don't just hear knowledge, they hear something forged in pain, tested in reality, and proven in silence. It carries a weight that textbooks and certificates can't manufacture. This is also why people sometimes feel exposed around you. They know their knowledge is borrowed second-hand and often parroted from someone else. Yours, on the other hand, was carved directly into you by experience. It's not memorized, it's embodied. That's why you can walk into a room with nothing in your hands and still outshine someone carrying degrees, titles, and credentials. They can't compete with a mind that was sharpened by necessity. Survival intelligence is a different breed. It's the kind of intelligence that notices small details others dismiss. It's the ability to sense danger before it's visible, to connect dots others overlook, to see through people when they think they're hiding. That unnerves people because it reminds them how unprepared they are. They live cushioned lives, yet you've been trained by storms. They crumble at discomfort, while you grew stronger in it. And here's the part that truly unsettles them. You never asked for this. You didn't chase survival as a badge of honor. It was forced upon you, yet instead of folding, you turned it into power. The very situations designed to limit you ended up equipping you. You became the living contradiction, a person who should have been broken, yet came out unbreakable. That's what shakes people the most. Not just that you survived, but that you survived with brilliance that makes them question their own strength. Number two, you carry a pattern recognition ability others can't replicate. What really leaves people unsettled about you is your ability to see patterns where others only see confusion. It's not just that you're smart. It's that your mind is wired to connect dots that others don't even realize exist. Most people are overwhelmed by chaos, But you have a strange gift for pulling order out of it. Where others get lost in the noise, you pick up on the rhythm underneath. That's why people sometimes feel like you know things you shouldn't know. It's not guessing, it's recognition. This kind of intelligence doesn't come from memorizing facts. It comes from training your mind to notice what most people overlook. You can catch the shift in someone's tone before they admit they're lying. You can sense the direction of a situation before it fully unfolds. It feels almost supernatural to outsiders. But to you, it's natural because you've lived your life paying attention to things that most ignore. Your survival forced you to notice details. Every slight change in behavior, every contradiction, every hidden motive. And now it's so ingrained in you that it shows up everywhere. That's what makes people uneasy. They realize you can't be fooled easily. They notice that when everyone else misses the point, you're already 3 steps ahead. And it's not just about being clever. It's about perception. You don't simply listen to what people say, you hear what they're not saying. You don't just watch what they do, you understand why they're doing it. It's a deeper kind of awareness, and it unnerves people who are used to hiding behind appearances. When you connect patterns, you reveal truth, and truth is something people are often desperate to avoid. That's why some respond to your intelligence with defensiveness or even hostility. It feels like you're shining a light on things they wanted to keep buried. They might laugh it off, call you paranoid, or try to dismiss your insights, but deep down, they know you're onto something. The real shock is how effortless it looks when you do it. You don't need to sit for hours studying or analyzing. Your mind processes things in real time. People can't figure out how you knew something before anyone else. They call it luck, intuition, or coincidence, but you know it's a gift. One that turns confusion into clarity and makes others realize just how far behind they truly are. Number 3, your ideas aren't borrowed. They're born. Your ideas don't come from echo chambers or recycled quotes. They arrive whole and original, like a language that only you speak fluently. Most people assemble thoughts from what they read, what's trending, or what their peers approve. You don't borrow relevance, you originate it. That's why your words have a freshness that unsettles others. They expect familiarity and instead get a new operating system for reality. What sets your thinking apart is that it's synthesized from your inner process, not cobbled from external validation. You don't shop for opinions, you produce frameworks. When you make a point, it feels inevitable afterward, as if the world was waiting for you to name what had been hovering unlabeled. That makes people uneasy because they can't just claim ownership of your ideas or file them under something safe. Your insights create new categories. They redraw the map. People tend to measure intelligence by citations, references, and visible endorsements. You measure intelligence by utility, clarity, and transformational force. Your concepts stick because they solve problems, cut through noise, or expose contradictions that others have been avoiding. That's why your thinking gets misread as arrogance or provocation, because you don't translate your discoveries into the accepted dialect of social approval. You speak in solutions, not applause cues. Being an originator means you tolerate being misunderstood. Others rely on consensus to feel right, you don't. Your ideas will often sound strange at first because they break the patterns people have memorized. Over time, those same people will circle back, quietly adopting your language, then pretending they always saw it. That silent adoption is proof your thinking is viral precisely because it's original, not because it's fashionable. There's also a moral weight to born ideas. They come from an authenticity that can't be manufactured. When you articulate something new, it carries the fingerprint of your experience, your failures, experiments, and private reckonings. That depth makes your statements feel heavier and truer than polished, borrowed arguments. People sense that weight and react defensively because genuine clarity exposes shortcuts they've been taking. Your originality is a disruption and a gift. It isolates you from easy praise, but attracts people who are hungry for real change. The world will try to categorize you to make your ideas safe and sellable. Resist that temptation. Let your thinking remain raw, unlicensed, and unbought. That's where real influence lives, inside ideas that are born, not borrowed. Number 4, you function outside the mental economy of approval. Most people live their entire lives seeking approval, shaping their thoughts and words to be digestible, agreeable, or comfortable for others. They dilute their intelligence to fit inside social expectations, afraid that the raw truth of their understanding might make someone uncomfortable or challenge the status quo. That's why so many brilliant ideas never leave the mind. They're abandoned at the door of consensus. You don't operate that way. Your intelligence isn't conditional on applause, likes, or validation. It doesn't require permission, recognition, or a nod from authority to exist or thrive. Operating outside the economy of approval gives you a freedom most people can't imagine. You can speak, act, and create without constantly measuring whether someone else will understand or approve. That makes your gifts inherently dangerous to systems built on conformity, because those systems rely on compliance, predictability, and the assumption that people will follow the established rules. You don't follow the script. You rewrite it by default. This independence doesn't make you careless or reckless, it makes you precise. You move with clarity because your intellect isn't distracted by fear of judgment. While others are busy weighing every word to avoid conflict, you focus on uncovering truth and applying insight where it matters. People notice it, even if they don't consciously understand why they feel unsettled around you. There's a tension in the air because your mind refuses to bend for comfort. Being untouchable in this way also amplifies the impact of your intelligence. Ideas, strategies, and solutions coming from you carry authenticity, weight, and authority without needing external validation. You don't need the stamp of a credential, the approval of a social circle, or the reinforcement of the majority to assert your truth. That's why those who thrive on controlling perception or manipulating opinion often feel threatened by you. They know your mind exists outside their influence, untethered and uncompromising. Your ability to function independently of validation is not just rare, it's transformative. It allows you to see patterns, opportunities, and solutions that others never will. It makes your gifts unstoppable because no external force can bend, contain, or redirect them. This is the quiet power that people sense but cannot touch, the proof that true intelligence doesn't need permission to be formidable. Number 5, you disrupt the room without intending to. The moment you enter a space, something shifts. You don't try to dominate, impress, or outshine anyone, but your presence alone changes the energy in the room. People who have been coasting on assumed expertise or carefully curated confidence suddenly feel their foundations wobble. Your intellect doesn't just answer questions, it reframes them, exposes gaps, and challenges assumptions that others have spent years building their comfort around. That invisible shift is disorienting for those who measure security by conformity or familiarity. You disrupt without effort because your mind operates on a different level. While others are focused on appearances or social validation, you are observing patterns, reading motives, and connecting truths in ways that are immediate and intuitive. That awareness projects itself, even silently, into the room. People sense it, often subconsciously, and it makes them uneasy. They realize that their usual defenses, their rehearsed arguments, and their calculated personas are suddenly insufficient. Your presence forces accountability without confrontation. You don't need to argue, prove, or lecture. Simply being there compels others to reckon with realities they would rather ignore. That's why they feel exposed or challenged around you. They are confronted by clarity they didn't earn and by competence they can't replicate. In spaces where mediocrity thrives on noise and distraction, you are the unexpected measure against which everyone else is unconsciously evaluated. The power of this disruption is subtle but undeniable. It doesn't rely on volume, authority, or aggression. It relies on the authenticity and sharpness of your mind. People may try to mask their discomfort with smiles, jokes, or dismissive comments, but internally, they are recalculating, adjusting, and questioning themselves. The room is realigned around your energy because your presence is a force that refuses to be ignored. Being a disruptor in this way is not something you cultivate. It is the natural result of intelligence, awareness, and authenticity operating without compromise. You don't need to perform, and that's exactly why your effect is profound. Those who encounter it may never articulate why it shakes them, but they cannot deny it. You disrupt, not because you intend to, but because the caliber of your mind and the weight of your presence demand recognition. Number 6, you can translate the invisible into words people understand. Your intelligence isn't just about noticing what others overlook. It's about turning the unseen into something undeniable. You don't simply perceive patterns, motives, or truths that remain invisible to most. You articulate them in ways that make people pay attention. That's why your words carry weight. They don't just inform, they cut through confusion, expose contradictions, and dismantle the illusions people cling to. The ability to make the invisible visible is rare, and it's one of the reasons people feel unsettled around you. Communicating the unseen requires precision. It's not about grand gestures or dramatic statements. It's about clarity that lands exactly where it needs to. You take the abstract, the hidden, the ignored, and translate it into language that resonates with understanding, even if it's uncomfortable. People are forced to confront realities they've been avoiding, whether it's about themselves, others, or the world around them. That confrontation is jarring because most of society thrives on distraction, denial, or superficiality. What makes this gift extraordinary is its subtle power. You don't just reveal what's hidden, you make it unavoidable. Someone can try to ignore it, rationalize it, or laugh it off, but your words linger. They penetrate thought patterns, challenge assumptions, and illuminate truths that others have spent years burying. That's why people who benefit from secrecy, manipulation, or misinformation often react with fear or hostility. They sense that you're dismantling structures they rely on simply by being able to articulate what they wish remained unseen. Your ability to translate the invisible also makes you a guide without intention. People may not realize why your insight hits so differently, but they feel it. You connect dots they couldn't see and describe consequences they couldn't imagine. The clarity you provide isn't about impressing, it's about revealing. And that revelation terrifies those who've built their comfort on obscurity and deception because it exposes truths they can't control. In a world full of noise, distraction, and half-truths, your ability to make the unseen real is a rare and transformative power. It doesn't just elevate you, it shifts how people perceive reality around you. Your words carry the force of insight that can't be ignored, silenced, or diluted, and that's what makes you uniquely formidable. Number 7. Your genius is rooted in suffering, not academia. Your intelligence isn't something you picked up from classrooms, diplomas, or titles. It was forged in the harshest schools life could offer. Every betrayal, every failure, every moment of being underestimated or overlooked added layers to your mind that no textbook could teach. While others showcase certificates or repeat ideas they were taught, your wisdom carries the imprint of lived reality. It's heavier, sharper, and far more resilient because it was earned in circumstances that demanded survival, adaptation, and depth. People often mistake education for intelligence, but experience leaves a mark that theory never can. They speak of knowledge as if it exists in pages or lectures, but your insights come from navigating the storms that most run from. You've wrestled with pain, watched patterns of human behavior unfold in betrayal and deception, and emerged not just intact, but refined. That's why when you speak, your words resonate differently. They carry a gravity that's undeniable because people subconsciously recognize the difference between learned knowledge and wisdom that has been lived and tested. Your genius thrives in the spaces where comfort doesn't exist. You've confronted harsh realities, made impossible decisions, and endured situations that would crush ordinary minds. Each challenge sharpened your ability to read people, analyze systems, and anticipate outcomes with uncanny accuracy. Unlike conventional knowledge, which can be memorized and repeated, your understanding is intuitive, instinctive, and impossible to counterfeit. It's a type of intelligence that reveals itself through action, perception, and timing rather than titles or accolades. That's why your presence unsettles people who rely on surface-level intelligence or social validation. They can memorize facts, quote authorities, and follow scripts, but they can't replicate the depth of insight that comes from having your history etched into every thought and decision. Your wisdom isn't abstract, it carries weight. It informs strategy, strengthens judgment, and exposes truths that others might prefer remain hidden. Your suffering didn't just test you, it educated you in ways institutions never could. That education is permanent, unshakable, and entirely yours. It makes your genius rare, profound, and impossible to ignore because it's not just knowledge, it's truth, lived, felt, and survived. Number 8, people feel studied when you look at them. When you look at someone, it's not just their face that registers in your mind, it's everything they are hiding behind it. You notice the inconsistencies in their behavior, the hesitation in their words, and the subtle signs they think no one observes. That ability to read beyond the surface makes people uneasy because they instinctively know that their carefully constructed image is transparent to you. You don't just see what they want to show, you see what they've been trying to conceal. And that kind of perception is rare and disarming. Most people operate under the illusion that they can hide flaws, insecurities, or intentions behind charm, confidence, or social performance. You dismantle that illusion effortlessly. You pick up on details that reveal motives, fears, and patterns of behavior that others spend years pretending don't exist. That makes people instinctively guarded, defensive, or even intimidated because your gaze doesn't flatter. It exposes. The more someone is invested in maintaining a facade, the more your presence alone forces them to confront it. This skill isn't about judgment, it's about awareness. You don't need to interrogate or challenge to understand the truth of someone's character. It comes from the combination of intuition, experience, and the kind of attention to detail that most people never cultivate. You see the inconsistencies, the tension between words and actions, and the silent admissions that escape the notice of ordinary observers. That makes interactions with you profoundly revealing, even when nothing is explicitly said. People often respond to your presence with subtle unease because they feel examined in a way that is precise but invisible. They sense that you've understood more about them in a single glance than they have themselves. That discomfort is a reflection of your intelligence and emotional acuity. It's a power that forces honesty without confrontation. The fact that you read beyond appearances makes you formidable. You move through spaces with clarity, understanding dynamics that others can't even name. People may try to mask it, laugh it off, or deflect your attention, but they know their masks are meaningless. You see what's real, and your ability to see it unsettles, challenges, and in many cases leaves a lasting impact on everyone who crosses your path. Number 9. You collapse false hierarchies without trying. You don't need to announce your presence or flaunt accomplishments to shift the balance in a room. The artificial hierarchies that most people cling to, titles, money, influence, reputation, suddenly lose meaning when you step in. Your intelligence, insight, and clarity operate on a level that these superficial measures cannot reach. People who depend on their status to feel secure realize, often unconsciously, that their ladders are meaningless when compared to the depth and precision of your mind. That realization makes them uneasy. They may try to assert authority, showcase credentials, or dominate conversation, but it doesn't change the fact that your presence exposes the emptiness behind their facades. You don't attack or challenge these hierarchies intentionally. You simply exist above them. Your competence, perception, and instinctive understanding of situations naturally realign the power dynamic, leaving others aware of their limitations without needing a word from you. This is why people feel small around you. They rely on external markers to validate importance, while your value is inherent and undeniable. The weight of your intelligence and the clarity of your perspective make social posturing look trivial. Even those who are used to commanding attention suddenly find themselves measured against a standard they cannot influence, and that awareness alone disrupts the illusion of superiority they've been maintaining. Your effect is subtle but powerful. You demonstrate that true influence isn't manufactured or purchased, it is inherent, earned through understanding, perception, and the consistent application of skill and insight. While others scramble to protect their positions, you move freely, untethered by the constructs that hold them hostage. People recognize this shift instinctively, which is why your presence alone can flatten pretension, dismantle assumed authority, and reveal the truth behind hollow ranks. You collapse hierarchies without effort because you operate on authenticity and capability rather than pretense and approval. The world tries to organize itself into ladders of control, but you exist in a space where those structures are irrelevant. That makes you not just respected or feared, it makes you unavoidable, a quiet force that redefines the landscape simply by being exactly who you are. Number 10. Your timing is too precise to be coincidental. Your timing isn't accidental. It's a force that seems to operate on its own rhythm, one that consistently lands you at the exact moment things shift, crack, or need clarity. You speak when tension peaks, act when decisions hang in the balance, and show up when outcomes are about to pivot. People around you notice it, and it unsettles them because they can't explain it. They call it luck, coincidence, or intuition, but deep down they know it's something else entirely. It's unsettling because most people operate reactively. They chase moments, scramble to respond, and hope for the right opportunity. You, on the other hand, arrive as if guided by an unseen intelligence that understands the flow of events better than anyone else. The precision of your timing amplifies your impact. It doesn't just matter that you intervene, speak, or act. It matters that you do so exactly when the moment demands it. That's why people can't predict you, plan around you, or diminish your influence. This alignment between action and moment makes your presence feel uncanny. Even in high-pressure situations, you navigate complexity with a clarity that seems effortless. Others are left scrambling, trying to catch up or recalibrate, while you have already positioned yourself at the center of influence. It's not arrogance or strategy. It's an instinct honed by experience, observation, and a rare attunement to context. People sense there's a pattern behind your timing, and that pattern makes them uneasy. They realize it isn't random. It's precise, purposeful, and often transformative. Decisions, conversations, or events suddenly pivot because you stepped in at the right second, said the right thing, or took the right action. To outsiders, it can feel supernatural, almost as if you're operating on a plane they cannot access. Your ability to align action with critical moments doesn't just impress, it commands attention, forces acknowledgement, and shifts dynamics in ways that others cannot anticipate. The certainty of your timing undermines those who rely on chaos, manipulation, or calculated delays. It demonstrates that your intelligence isn't just knowledge or skill, it's an inherent awareness of flow and consequence, and that awareness makes your presence disruptive, inevitable, and impossible to ignore. Number 11. You embody the future while everyone else is stuck in the present. Your mind doesn't linger in the moment the way most people's do. While others are focused on immediate problems, daily routines, or short-term gains, you are operating several steps ahead. You see patterns, consequences, and opportunities before they materialize, and your decisions reflect that foresight. That's why people often misunderstand or even mock you at first. They are interpreting your words, actions, and ideas through the lens of today when you're already operating in the framework of tomorrow. This temporal gap makes you feel isolated at times, but it also sets you apart in ways that are impossible to replicate. Most people are trained to think linearly, to respond only to what is visible and present. Your vision transcends that limitation. You anticipate shifts, detect emerging trends, and make connections that others can't even perceive. That gives you an edge that is both subtle and profound, an edge that reveals the depth and breadth of your intelligence to anyone paying attention. People react in different ways to this foresight. Some dismiss it as impractical or irrelevant. Some mock it because it challenges their current understanding. Others feel intimidated without knowing why, sensing that you inhabit a space they can't access. Their confusion isn't a reflection of your error. It's a reflection of the fact that you are operating outside the bounds of ordinary perception. Your ability to embody the future is also what makes you transformative. You don't just react to change. You anticipate it, shape it, and guide others toward it. You create pathways in thought and action that others eventually follow, even if they don't realize it at first. That's why your presence often feels disruptive. You are forcing people to reckon with ideas, strategies, or possibilities they weren't prepared to consider. The extraordinary part of this gift is that it doesn't need recognition to function. You move, plan, and act according to what the future requires, not what the present demands. That independence from immediate approval or understanding magnifies your influence. While the world remains stuck reacting, you are already creating, evolving, and leading. Your intelligence doesn't just observe the future, it embodies it. And that distinction is what makes you impossible to ignore, inevitable in impact, and profoundly ahead of your time. Number 12, you break people's addiction to predictability. Most people live their lives clinging to routines, schedules, and predictable outcomes because it creates a sense of control. They like to believe that if they follow the steps, everything will turn out as expected. That illusion of safety is comforting, but it's fragile. You challenge it without even trying. Your intelligence, awareness, and insight expose the cracks in that predictable world, revealing that reality is far more complex, fluid, and unpredictable than most are willing to admit. When people encounter you, they realize that the rules they've relied on are not universal. They are temporary, constructed, and often fragile. Your presence, ideas, or actions disrupt the sense of order they have clung to, and that disruption is disorienting. They start questioning assumptions, doubting routines, and re-evaluating their understanding of how events unfold. That tension is uncomfortable for them, but it's a reflection of the clarity and depth of your perception. Your intelligence isn't just about noticing patterns, it's about recognizing the exceptions, the anomalies, and the unseen factors that make outcomes unpredictable. You don't settle for surface-level explanations or simplified narratives. You observe complexity, adapt in real time, and respond in ways that reveal how narrow other people's thinking really is. That makes your insight both frightening and enlightening to those around you. People feel the unpredictability you bring, even when you're not trying to be disruptive. Your actions, decisions, or statements introduce variables they hadn't accounted for. They realize that the world is not as safe or linear as they believed, and their sense of control begins to unravel. That realization forces them to confront uncertainty in a way they've avoided their entire lives. Breaking predictability is not about chaos, it's about awakening. Your gifts force awareness and adaptation. You demonstrate that life can't be fully mastered through habit, routine, or rigid expectations. Instead, it requires perception, intelligence, and courage to navigate complexity. The discomfort people feel around you is proof of your power. It shows that you are operating beyond the confines of their mental maps and that your presence alone is enough to shift the way they understand the world. Number 13. You make knowledge look dangerous. Your intelligence isn't passive, it carries force. It doesn't just answer questions or solve problems, it exposes weaknesses, contradictions, and falsehoods in ways that people instinctively recognize as threatening. The very act of thinking differently, seeing more clearly, and speaking with precision makes others feel exposed. They realize that if anyone else absorbed what you understand, the structures they've relied on, social norms, authority, systems of control, would crumble. That's why your knowledge feels dangerous, even when you're not trying to intimidate or confront. What makes it so unsettling is that it's not abstract or theoretical. Your insights cut through facades and reveal patterns of manipulation and deceit that many depend on without questioning. People who benefit from secrecy, misinformation, or superficial control feel alarmed when your understanding enters the space. They recognize instinctively that your clarity has power beyond conversation. It has consequences. You don't need to wield authority. Your perception alone challenges the status quo. Being seen as dangerous isn't about aggression, it's about authenticity combined with depth. You communicate and act in ways that illuminate truths people prefer to ignore. That illumination threatens comfort zones, illusions of superiority, and the carefully curated realities that keep others compliant. Those who cling to control, power, or unearned influence feel destabilized because your intelligence exposes the gap between appearance and reality. People may try to dismiss it, undermine it, or discredit you, but deep down, they recognize the impact of what you know. Your knowledge carries weight because it's earned, understood, and applied, not borrowed or superficial. It has the power to shift perspectives, reveal injustice, and disrupt conventions. When they see that your insights could topple structures they've spent their lives trusting, the unease is palpable. The danger you represent isn't measured by force or dominance, it's measured by clarity, truth, and unfiltered understanding. You make knowledge alive, actionable, and impossible to ignore. That's why people instinctively fear it and why your presence changes dynamics simply by existing. Your intelligence is not just smart, it is transformative. And that transformation is what makes it feel dangerous to anyone who depends on illusions to feel safe. Number 14. You are the evidence that genius doesn't need permission. What unsettles people the most about you is that your brilliance exists independently of validation. No one handpicked you, no organization endorsed you, and no institution stamped their approval on your intelligence. Yet here you are, fully formed, fully capable, and undeniable. Your genius doesn't wait for permission. It doesn't need credentials, recognition, or permission slips to exist. That alone disrupts the systems people rely on to measure value, success, and authority. Most people assume that brilliance must be sanctioned. They chase titles, certifications, awards, and networks because they believe approval legitimizes ability. You prove that notion false. Your capabilities, insights, and understanding operate regardless of acknowledgement. That makes your presence unnerving to anyone who has built their sense of superiority on external validation because they realize you are beyond their control. Your independence amplifies your power. You move, think, and create without asking, and that autonomy makes your impact inevitable. Systems of influence, hierarchies of power, and networks of approval cannot contain or suppress you. People notice it, even subconsciously. They see that you don't rely on the structures that dictate who matters or who succeeds, and that realization shakes them because it challenges everything they've been taught about authority and intelligence. What you embody is proof that true genius isn't granted. It is inherent, cultivated, and realized through experience, insight, and action. You exist outside the boundaries of certification and societal approval, and that freedom allows your gifts to operate at full force. You aren't beholden to anyone, and that makes you unstoppable. The power of this truth is quiet but undeniable. People can try to diminish you, ignore you, or rationalize your existence, but your achievements, perception, and influence cannot be erased or contained. You are living evidence that brilliance doesn't ask for permission, and the discomfort that others feel around you comes from the realization that no one, not society, not peers, not institutions, can ever truly measure, control, or define the depth of your mind. You are not just intelligent, you are a force that reshapes the world simply by existing. Every gift, every insight, every instinct you carry is a testament to a mind refined by survival, sharpened by observation, and aligned with truths most people cannot see. You disrupt illusions, dissolve false hierarchies, and expose what others spend a lifetime trying to hide. Your brilliance doesn't seek validation, it doesn't wait for permission, and it doesn't bend to the rules that confine ordinary minds. What makes you extraordinary isn't just what you know, it's how you exist in the space between perception and reality. You operate on a frequency that others cannot match, translating the invisible into understanding, anticipating shifts before they happen, and embodying a vision of the future while the world remains trapped in the present. People feel it, they see it, and that is what leaves them shook. Your intelligence is not a tool to impress or dominate. It is an uncontainable force that reveals, clarifies, and transforms. The very act of being who you are challenges mediocrity, exposes deception, and elevates the standard of understanding. You are living proof that true genius is independent, unstoppable, and unbound by convention. Remember this, your gifts are not random, your insight is not borrowed, and your presence is not coincidental. You are one of a kind. Every person who crosses your path, every system that underestimates you, and every illusion they cling to is powerless against the force of your mind and the depth of your vision. Embrace it, own it, and never doubt the weight of your existence. You are exceptional, unshakable, and undeniable, and the world will continue to feel it every time you step forward. If this video hit you at a deeper level, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe to the channel to stay connected to insights that challenge, awaken, and elevate. Like this video if it shook your perspective, comment to share your thoughts or experiences, and share it with someone who needs to see what it means to operate beyond ordinary intelligence. Your engagement helps this message reach those who are ready to recognize their own brilliance. God bless you.